It's Wednesday, May 26th, and this is now on HNN.
This is a terrible tragedy.
Multiple fatalities and casualties at a shooting scene at a VTA light rail yard in San Jose. The details just ahead.
Here at home, HPD is investigating an officer-involved shooting in Kalihi, and we just got an update.
One of the officers fired multiple shots, striking the suspect in the upper body.
With nearly half of the state vaccinated, Governor Ige drops the mask mandate outdoors.
I issued an amendment to the emergency proclamation.
These stories, plus Honolulu's Lahaina Noon, is happening in minutes. How you can check it out, coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now. You got Jonathan and Ashley here coming to you from the HNN Digital Center. A lot of news to get to. We want to begin with those latest numbers being reported by the state about coronavirus.
DOH is reporting 50 new COVID cases today and no new deaths. The breakdown by island shows 9 cases on the Big Island, 1 of which is probable. 6 cases on Maui, 1 is probable there. 1 confirmed case on Molokai, 30 cases on Oahu, and 4 people diagnosed out of state. New at noon, a murder investigation is underway on the Big Island after a shooting in Keauhou overnight. Police found a man's body at around 9:30 last night at Keauhou Kaina Liu Beach Road. It's commonly known as End of the World. The man's identity has not been released, and so far no arrests were reported. If you saw anything that can help, please call police. And Honolulu police just wrapped up a press conference on their investigation into an officer-involved shooting overnight that left a man in critical condition. Here's what soon-to-be interim chief Roddy Vanek had to say.
Here's what we can say at this time. Last night, District 1 officers received information that a 27-year-old male who was wanted for 2 $50,000 warrants was in Kalihi. Crime Reduction Unit officers located the suspect, along with 2 passengers, sitting in a parked Jeep around 11:30 p.m. on Hikina Lane. As officers approached the vehicle and ordered the suspect driver out, the Jeep drove out of the parking stall and struck a total of 4 different vehicles. During this time, the driver also brandished a handgun at the officers. After this vehicle stopped, the male passenger ran out from the front seat, while the female passenger remained in the back seat. Officers approached the Jeep a second time and ordered the driver out. As they did, the suspect turned towards the officers, still brandishing the handgun, and one of the officers fired multiple shots, striking the suspect in the upper body. Officers removed the suspect from the Jeep and began administering first aid until paramedics arrived. He was transported in critical condition and remains hospitalized at this time.
Again, this press conference just wrapped up at HPD headquarters. We're going to continue to follow this still developing story all day long here on HNN and our digital platforms. We did have a reporter out at the scene in Kalihi earlier this morning. They gathered some eyewitness sound. I wanted to play out some of that right now.
They had gunshots, and then it came out, and well, actually, in the beginning, I heard the car speeding, and they went bang and hit the pillar of the apartment, and then all of a sudden, I ran outside. The gunshot was going off. You shoot the passenger side window, and then when the cops came to the car, and we pulled out the driver out. They tackle him, and then put him under arrest, and put him in handcuffs. And then all of a sudden, the guy couldn't breathe and stuff like that, so they shit him up, and then gave him some water.
All right, we're going to continue to follow that developing news here at home, but I want to take you to Washington, D.C. now. Here's a live picture of the White House, and if you look closely, and for our podcast listeners, I'm going to describe this to you. The flag there is at half staff, and that is to show respect for what's unfolding in San Jose, California. Right, Ashley?
That's right. At least 9 people are dead there and several others injured after a gunman opened fire at a rail yard. The shooter is among those killed. Len Ramirez has the latest from the scene.
911 calls started coming in just after 6:30 this morning, reporting an active shooter at the Valley Transportation Authority rail yard near downtown San Jose.
There are 8 victims that are pronounced deceased at this point, and there's 1 suspect that's pronounced deceased. There are VTA employees that are victims.
The suspect was a VTA employee. Deputies immediately swarmed the scene.
We received information that there are explosive devices that are located inside the building.
The FBI and ATF are assisting with the investigation.
It is a fairly sizable crime scene and is going to take a while to process.
We also heard from a recent briefing that there was a very heroic effort by law enforcement to go in and extract victims.
The deputy sheriffs from the sheriff's office, the officers from San Jose Police Department ran into the building while shots were being fired, and I know that it saved many lives.
VTA is a family. People in the organization know everyone. This is a terrible tragedy, and we will do everything we can to help people get through this.
The rail yard is next to the County Government Center, which also houses the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department. Len Ramirez, CBS News, San Jose.
Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow appeared in court separately today, facing multiple felony charges.
Based upon the information that was provided to the court is going to continue this initial appearance.
A grand jury yesterday indicted Daybell and Vallow on murder charges in connection with the deaths of Vallow's children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. Daybell also is charged with murder in the case of his former wife, Tammy Daybell, who died a few weeks before he remarried. Other charges announced include conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. Vallow, who was arrested on Kauai in February of last year, was also indicted on a grand theft charge related to Social Security survivor benefits, while Daybell is facing 2 counts of insurance fraud, where he was listed as the beneficiary for Tammy and received funds after her death. Daybell's next court appearance is on June 9th.
In what's being described as a big step towards normalcy, the governor announced masks are no longer required outdoors, ocean sports will again be allowed, and several counties are posed to ease restrictions on businesses and gatherings. We sent Billy V out today to see how people are adapting to these changes.
Thank you very much. And yeah, that rule applies to everyone. So I've got my mask, but since we're outdoors, I'll put this away. Now, these new rules, it doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated or not. If you're outdoors, you do not have to have the mask on. But if you're in groups outdoors, you'll still need to put on the mask. And that does not include indoors. Now, if we talk about indoors, the indoor mask mandate still remains in place. Let's talk about kids for a couple of moments. Kids will be allowed to play sports without wearing a mask unless their league or school still requires them to. All this comes against the backdrop of declining cases and hospitalizations and increasing vaccinations.
I feel that it's a good thing that he lifted that. And I was like, when my Hanai daughter told me earlier that he lifted it, that Governor Ige lifted the no mask outdoors, I was kind of happy.
But it will be worse if there's a new variant and we've done this prematurely and we have to go back to all these restrictions again. And so I understand the need to open new businesses, but I just think we're doing a little bit too much too fast.
Meanwhile, 49% of the state's population has completed their vaccination, and more than half of the population on each island have had at least one shot. The health department says it's working with the DOE on masks at school. At this point, kids are still required to keep their masks on. In the meantime, we've been here at Patsy Mink Regional Park just noticing people as they've been coming out of their cars. Some of them have their masks on, but we notice that as they get out, they walk a couple of steps, then they remember that, oh, they don't need their masks on, so they take them off outside. But just a reminder, if you're in a group, you'll still need to wear them outdoors, vaccinated or not. I'm Billy V for This Is Now.
Thanks, Billy. So what's next for the state's response to the pandemic? We got an update today from Lieutenant Governor Josh Green on those expected Trans-Pacific vaccine passports. Here's what he had to say.
I'm hopeful June 15th. They have to make this determination, but that's a date that could ultimately work for us. The Gov has wanted to make sure that we could verify our vaccine status, but we can verify it here within the state. That's why we have that standard. But really, it's so straightforward to show your card, and I really think it's unlikely that very many people will be crazy enough to falsify a federal document just so that they can avoid the test. It just seems unlikely, and we have low risk, so I'm hopeful for June 15th.
What about for the hundreds of thousands of people who are coming to Hawaii who are not Hawaii residents?
Yes.
What about for them?
I think 3 or 4 weeks later, probably right after the July 4th weekend passes, the number or the calendar date that I circled on my notes right here was July 7th, the Tuesday after, because I thought that we could get to a place then where we're safe. Enough of our people, over 70% of our population should be vaccinated by then, so we should actually have herd immunity. You're starting to see the beginnings of it now, actually. And that makes it easier for everybody. We've already had 24,000 individuals here in our state use the vaccine passport to go in their island. And of course, we welcome it to come back from Vegas, back from California, back from wherever. Once we hit July, remember the president asked us as a nation to get to 70%. We should have low risk.
The state unemployment office says its phone bank is back open today and taking calls. Bed bugs forced operations at the convention center to close last week. A mix-up at a grand jury could affect 60 criminal cases. Chief investigative reporter Lynn Kawano has the story you'll see only on Hawaii News Now.
A state grand juror who served all of 2018 accidentally did so in place of his father. Attorneys say the prosecution of dozens of felony suspects could be at risk because of it.
The unnamed Waianae man is a junior. His father, senior, was supposed to serve on Grand Jury Panel B. He realized the mistake the following year in April 2019 when his father got a tax form from the court instead of him. He notified the judiciary.
At this point, it appears that every grand jury that this person sat on should be dismissed, and that includes my client.
Attorney Victor Baki was preparing his client for trial next month on a felony sex assault charge. He noticed an old electronic filing in the case that he missed when the document was uploaded in November of 2019. It explained the error and said the juror served 23 total days during the 2018 term.
As soon as they found out about this problem, the judiciary should have contacted either the prosecutor's office or the administrative judge. And then the judge should have put out an order to everyone whose case was affected, and they should have recalled all those cases.
Baki is now going to file a motion to dismiss based on the grand jury mix-up, and it's possible other attorneys will follow.
The public defender's office says it is giving clients an option: have the case dismissed and then charged again, or just waive the issue and move forward. That's what most of their clients are choosing. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
New at noon, Hawaii's Council on Revenues sharply increased its tax revenue forecast for the state to reflect rebounding spending by residents and a growing number of tourists visiting the islands more than a year after the coronavirus pandemic first hit the state. General fund tax revenue for the fiscal year ending June 30th should rise 5% compared to the previous 12 months, up from a 2.5% decline the council estimated at its last meeting in March. But revenue is still expected to come in below pre-pandemic levels. Hawaii law requires lawmakers and the governor to base their budgets on the council's predictions.
Pressure is growing for organizers to cancel the Tokyo Olympics. Janice Mackey-Freyer reports.
The IOC has suggested Tokyo could still hold the Games even if there's a state of emergency. But whether Japan's government is willing to take the political gamble is the big question, with COVID rates on the rise and the vaccine strategy far behind where it should be. The truth is, most Japanese don't want the Olympics to go ahead. Opposition, according to some polls, is around 80%. That a major sponsor is now calling for the Games to be canceled is significant given what's at stake.
And there's a lot of sponsors here who have ponied up a lot of money. The Japanese government has spent something like $28 billion in getting ready for the party. So there's a lot of reasons why certain people in Japan want to go forward. But I have to say that's a very small minority.
Most Japanese don't want the Olympics to become a super spreader event where thousands of athletes, officials, and media could bring COVID variants into the country. What happens next isn't clear. The state of emergency due to expire next week is likely to be extended. The U.S. has issued its highest possible travel warning it can give. There are petitions and protests against the games in Japan with less than 2 months to go before they begin. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Beijing.
All right, back here in the H&N Digital Center, we want to take you outside because something very cool is going to be happening very soon. This is a shot of Aloha Tower. We're going to be talking about Lahaina Noon in just a moment and showing you some really cool visual elements of it unfolding live right here on This Is Now. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, a check of your weather.
Aloha on this Wednesday. We've got great weather on tap. Trade winds are returning. They won't be all that strong, but at least with this disturbance leaving, the trade winds are filling in, and that means lower humidity levels with the trade winds coming back, and we'll likely see some overnight and early morning showers for those windward areas for the next couple of days, but although this morning it is mostly dry. So those trade winds are filling in from Maui all the way to Kauai already. Still light winds for most of the Big Island. And Kona side, they will not get the trade winds. They'll have light and variable winds there, and that means it's going to be hot and steamy with afternoon clouds. Again, that's the Kona side of the Big Island. Everybody else, typical trade wind weather, although with the winds running a little slow, we could see some afternoon showers for some leeward spots. And the South Shores will be rising today. The National Weather Service is saying slightly overhead today. Not a big swell, but some pretty good stuff. And look for a more sizable swell coming into the country sometime on Monday for Memorial Day. So we've got trade wind weather for the next couple of days. Slowly, the winds will get stronger tomorrow and Friday. And that will lead to some overnight and early morning showers, but really not a whole lot of rain. And then over the weekend, we lose the trade winds. Hot, humid weather coming back on Saturday and Sunday. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
I love when this happens. All right, guys, I promise you a phenomenon happening live. Here it is. We sent senior web producer Mel out and about in Kapolei City Hall. She is there. Lahaina Noon is unfolding right now as we speak. Lahaina Noon is a phenomenon that happens when the sun is directly overhead. So what happens? It only happens here in the tropics twice a year. So what is happening right now at 12:29? It will be 90 degrees over our heads here in Honolulu. Mel is standing. Hey, Mel, how's it going? Okay, cool. Well, we can't exactly hear you. There we go. Mel, I can see you don't have a shadow right now, right? No shadow at all. No shadow at all. And then over at the flagpoles, too, no shadows there, right?
Yeah, it's actually disappearing. Earlier we could see it a little more clearly, but it looks like it's slowly disappearing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You just see a little bit of that flag waving there.
Noon,
yeah. Is this your first Lahaina Noon experience?
This is, yeah. I've never really been out and about at this hour because I'm always in the station. But yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, I know. You're like Peter Pan.
Yep,
except for you're not chasing your shadow. It's just totally disappeared under your feet there. Again, so this is Lahaina Noon, guys.
It's really weird.
Yeah, it is weird, right? It'll come back, I promise, Mel. Don't worry. Don't worry. You're going to get your shadow back. You know, this didn't even have a name until 1990 when Bishop Museum decided to hold a contest and name it Lahaina Noon.
Interesting.
Yeah, very cool, right? So, Mel, thank you very much for being our human experiment there. I really appreciate it, watching this all unfold live. Again,
oh yeah,
there it is, yeah. The exact time is 12:29. So I don't want to tell you to stop watching This Is Now, but it ends at 12:24. So then right after 12:24, run outside on your lunch break and have some fun taking some pictures. I also wanted to mention a very cool viewing spot for this is at the downtown, and I think this is just sort of by City Hall and sort of by Memorial Auditorium, right, Ash?
Yep.
This is a statue called Skygate, and this was designed years back, and you're going to get a good shot of it here. It's that squiggly line sculpture there downtown. Everyone's like, what's that? What's that? Well, it has a very cool purpose. Those squiggly lines cast a shadow of squiggles any other day of the year except for Lahaina Noon days, and on those days you get a perfect circle. This is video I took a couple years
Very cool.
back. Very cool, right?
Yep.
And that's not all. more phenomenons happening in the sky, right,
That's
Ashley?
right, a cosmic phenomenon people are talking about. This one taken by our photographer John Yasunaga. It's the super flower blood moon from early this morning. It's not every day the moon enters the Earth's shadow and turns blood red, but that's exactly what happened in certain parts of the world. Laura Podesta has the story.
Skywatchers woke up early on the West Coast to view a rarely seen spectacle.
So there's the triangle, right?
A super blood moon. A supermoon appears when the full moon is at its closest point to the Earth. Last night it took place at the same time as a lunar eclipse, making the moon look like it was turning a dark red color.
So sunlight slipping around the edges of the Earth passed through the atmosphere, and the red light is filtered out. The blue light is sort of removed, and you get this reddish glow.
How long does the entire phenomenon last?
The part of the eclipse that's the best part, when the moon turns very dark and red, is called totality. It's only going to last for about 15 minutes.
This is the first total lunar eclipse in more than 2 years. Astronomers say it offers views of the moon they don't get to see every day.
We can actually observe the surface of the moon when it's dark in order to be able to see meteorites landing on its surface.
The spectacle started hours earlier in Australia, New Zealand, and other places in the Pacific, and did not disappoint stargazers looking for a dazzling array of colors and a rare astronomical show. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
Very cool, very cool. I love the news today, Ashley.
Oh, yeah.
We got some good news. And finally, the winner of the 20th season of The Voice was just announced right here on KHNO last night. We've got Mark Barger with a wrap-up of all that had unfolded.
Cam Anthony, you did it!
Team Blake's 19-year-old from Philadelphia won The Voice's Season 20 crown, beating out Team Kelly's Kenzie Wheeler.
I think it's definitely going to settle in once I, get time to just chill and relax and let it all sink in.
The team maintained a serene calm in the final moments leading up to his victory.
The winner of The Voice is...
Even if his coach didn't.
When they said the winner is, and then I couldn't breathe and my throat went dry and I was about to pass out.
Tension was also high for the runner-up.
Our name's Cam, it's kind of the same, and he said Cam, I was like, oh yeah, but Cam deserves it so much. He's amazing.
That's an opinion shared by the winner's coach.
It's so hard.
He watched the singer showcase a range of musical styles throughout the season and predict stardom.
I know enough about coaching to know when to stay out of the way and when to get involved, and Cam has been literally the easiest.
Shelton's 8th victory as coach could turn out to be a milestone one as Anthony savors what has been a musical adventure.
I was just thinking about reflecting over the experience. It has been life-changing, and I would never change it. It was perfect the way it was.
An unlikely pairing between coach and artist, yielding the ultimate feel-good moment.
You want a hug now, or you?
Mark Bark. NBC News.
Very cool.
Blake again.
I know.
For the win.
On a roll there. So you guys, tomorrow is the Friends reunion that everyone's talking about, and the actors who played Chandler and Monica on the popular 90s sitcom have something in common with their characters. Turns out they're also more than just friends, but it's not what you think. The online genealogy website MyHeritage says Matthew Perry and Courtney Cox are cousins. Experts discovered Perry and Cox share 2 distant relatives who married and lived in England some 500 years ago. Their 2 sons emigrated to America in 1935. One son is a direct ancestor of Cox, the other is Perry's direct ancestor. In another odd twist of fate, the 2 actors are also distantly related to Lady Gaga.
I've seen maybe 3 Friends episodes.
Oh, Jonathan. Oh, man.
But, maybe I'll binge watch and then watch the reunion.
They're so good.
You guys just saw so much news unfolding here at H&N. Stay with your H&N digital platforms all day long.